Hello, class. Welcome to our refresher and assessment. So we will take up educational assessment. So before anything else, we have to remember what is a teacher, because whether you like it or not, you are now almost at the top of your ambition to be a teacher like me. So look at that. Because you are aiming to be a teacher, someday you will look like this. I have experienced that one, and I am not discouraging you. I am just challenging you, because being a teacher means you are a multitask person. So jokingly, we could define a teacher as a multitasking educational rock star. No? Why rock star? Because we could be an advisor, we could be a coach, we could be a director of a drama, we could be anything else. No, we could be a host in a program and so many other things which are part of the tasks of being a teacher. No, rock star who lives to inspire and loves to encourage. They're kind of a big deal. So welcome to the world of teachers. Now, a teacher is a person who helps people to learn. A teacher often works in a classroom, that is for a formal educational setting. Even in the online teaching learning process, still the teacher is in the classroom. Now, teachers are producers of professionals. A teacher is like a potter who shapes the mind and encourages them whenever they have doubts, shaping the mind of the learners, enabling them to understand what they are doing. So a teacher molds the minds. Teachers are also like gardeners. They shape the growing plants and make them beautiful and useful for the world. Now, teacher is like a gardener. He would pour the water of knowledge and strengthen them to bloom and to reach the sky. So, now when a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. So meaning to say, if you have learners who are late bloomers, it is up to you, teacher, to find ways for that particular learner to bloom. Now, a teacher is like a guide who gives a new version to life and leads them and ensure a trouble-free ride. So everyone in the boat should row in the same direction. So the teacher should see to it that it would really happen, that they are riding on the same boat and at the same time they are focusing on the same direction. Because if the teacher fails, it would be like this. Others are rowing on opposite direction. So the tendency is they would cancel their efforts. No? So di ka mutulin if it would be like this. Now, students go to school to learn so that they will be able to function as independent beings in the ever-changing world. No? That is ultimately one of the purposes of going to school, so that children would learn to be independent and they would have to earn the skills that they are aiming. A teacher, or as teachers, it's important for us to understand that there is so much more to students than the life they lead. So meaning to say, the different students or pupils that we would encounter every day in the classroom setting, they have different things in their minds. Like, for example, others just want to play. No matter what the teacher would do, they want to play. Others would fight. They would quarrel. That is part of the student life. Others want to eat. While others, no, Or there are some who would cry because they do not want their parents to get away. They want their mothers to get inside the classroom as well. Others would have to love gossiping, and others love to bully their co-students. For some students, school is the best part of their day because it offers an escape from their life at home. So school is an escape. School is somewhere that they would be free and they would be happy and they could share with their children. But what should a teacher do when student refuses to work? When the teacher is being very busy discussing, but he would see some or a particular student is not paying attention. Why your child may not follow instructions. So there are several reasons for that. And we teachers should find ways to overcome this particular situation. So it is important to show interest in a student outside of the day's homework. So one of the major tasks of the teacher is to get engaged with the students. They should know not only that particular pupil inside the classroom, they must know the past of that pupil, or they must know the background of that particular pupil. So the question is, you as teachers, including me, do we really connect with our students? So are you really connecting with your students? That's one of the great questions that we should ask ourselves. How well do we know our students? Do you understand their feelings? Do you know their struggles? Teachers as we are, we need to understand our students. We are foster parents at school. We play several roles inside the classroom. As a mother, as a parent, no? As a doctor, as a nurse. Kagnay masamad, especially in the elementary, it is the primary task of the teacher to see to it that the well-being of the pupils, of all the pupils inside the classroom would be attended to, not only their minds. Now, teachers are continually faced with the challenge of assessing the educational advancement of their students, as well as their own efficacy as teachers. So we are now on the assessment process. It is very important that we should assess how far our students have gone, and at the same time, we could assess how far we have done our task as a teacher. So knowledge transfer, a growing challenge for us. So when we say transfer of knowledge from our mind, we have to transmit the information and the ideas to the minds of the students, just like this. You are the teacher. You are transferring your knowledge to the student or to the students. And what's amazing, even if we are transferring our knowledge to our students, we could not be emptied. The more we are sharing, the more we are teaching, the more knowledge that would come into our minds. And we have all the capacity to transfer this knowledge to our students. So effective knowledge transfer is of paramount importance. It's very important for us teachers to assess whether we have successfully transmitted the information to our students. Now, the basic concepts in assessment. The effectiveness of a teacher could be measured through the progress of the students. It is true. That is why we would be very, very happy. Teachers as we are, I am now getting old. Whenever there are previous students who would visit the school and would say, no, I am a doctor already, ma'am, I'm a PhD. And then looking at the FBs, looking at my previous students who are now PhDs, we are proud. We could be proud to say that once upon a time, we were part and parcel of the lives of those students. We were able to contribute to what they are now. So just like the gardener, we are watering the brains of our students. Just like what I have shown you before, we are pumping out the ideas from our heads, and we are not emptying our heads as well. Same time, we are also increasing our knowledge. So look at that. A teacher is watering the brain, not only the brain of a single student, but all the students. So you are being challenged. That is our responsibility. We should be concerned with the achievement and progress of our learners. Okay? So assessment is any of a variety of procedures used to obtain information about student performance. This is according to Linn and Miller. So how can information be gained about pupils' learning? By observing the pupils, by listening to them, trying to ask questions, setting tasks using specific skills. In that way, we could assess whether they have that particular idea that we want to get from them, or they have the particular capacity to do the task assigned to them. Then using a variety of ways of communicating and at the same time discussing. Assessment refers to the full range of information gathered and synthesized by teachers about their students and their classrooms. So narrative informations, discussions, explanation, recounting of the things, exposition, as well as giving procedures. So assessment could be done in several ways. Assessment is a method for analyzing and evaluating student achievement or program success. Now, when we say assessment for learning, enables teachers to use information about students' knowledge, understanding, and skills to inform their teaching, and teachers provide feedback to students about their learning and how to improve. No? And then for the assessment as learning, involves students in the learning process where they monitor their own progress, ask questions, and practice skills. Students under the assessment as learning use self-assessment and teacher feedback to reflect on their learning, consolidate their understanding, and work towards learning goals. And for the assessment of learning, assist teachers to use evidence of student learning to assess student achievement against learning goals and standards. So, meaning from the objectives up to the end, no? Up to the evaluation whether those objectives are being attained. These are part of the assessment process. When we see assessment for learning, teachers using assessment to make decisions to improve the learning of the students, where they are at a certain moment, no? As to what particular portion of the lesson they have understood well, where they need to go. So in the assessment for learning, the teacher must know that as of this point, they should be in this portion of the textbook. They should be in this particular topic. But then why is it that my students are lagging behind? So you need to do something, teacher, and you must know how best to get there. No? So a very challenging task of a teacher, because if they would realize that they are lagging behind, the teacher should devise plan. It could be a remedial in such a way that the students could cope up. On the assessment as learning, that means helping students develop their own capacity. set individual goals, monitor their own progress, determine next steps, and reflect in their thinking and learning. So both ways, both the teachers and the students are being attributed for the success of assessment. Now, assessment trends in education, that is a shift assessment for learning. A long time ago, the assessment of learning was test and measurement. No, it was only talking about the test and how to measure. So though there are similarities of the terms, test, measurement, evaluation, assessment, but then they are being classified. In formative assessment, it is ongoing. No? It is differentiated and it is frequent. For the standards-based grading, transparency in giving grades, there should be growth. That is why we have report cards. Then competency-based, no? Because on the report card, on the grading system that we have, we could determine who are those who are at the front, who are those pupils who are really achievers. Then actionable data or data, recent data, visual data, the feedback loops. No? The data that would give us idea what to do next. Then fewer final exams, innovation, reduced stress, and clearer insights. There are a portion of the discussions which would discuss about the different types of examinations, the different types or different ways of giving assessment to the students. Now, measurement, as used in education, refers to the process of quantifying an individual's achievement, personality, and attitudes, among others, by means of appropriate measuring instruments. So again, no, measurement, but there should be appropriate measuring instruments. What are the appropriate measuring instruments in terms of educational measurement? These are the examinations. These are the different types of tests and examinations or assessment that the students or learners would undergo. So the basic concepts and principles, the test, the measurements, assessment, and evaluation. So what I have said, they are similar, and yet there are differences among them. Now, measurement is the process of obtaining a numeric or numerical description of the degree to which an individual possesses a particular characteristic. So measurement answers the question, how much? Or measurement determines how much has been learned through the use of that particular method. So that is measurement. Educational measurement, the very first step towards elevating a field of study into a science, is to take measurements of the quantities and qualities of interest in the field. So look at this. You have to start with the first step. No? You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. Because the first step is you have to you have to say that you can. So a great leap starts with a first step. So we are now on the measurement. We have the types of measurement. Objective measurements. These are measurements that do not depend on the person or individual taking the measurements. So objective, it does not classify what type of person you are. It is just measuring objectively. While subjective measurements often differ from one assessor to the next, even if the same quantity or quality is being measured. So objective, no matter who you are and what you are. But for the subjective, it is often determined by the assessor. So from one assessor to the next, that is subjective. How a particular assessor measures you or understands your capacity based on another. And then say for example, a series of examinations and different people are giving you examinations. It could be oral, no, oral examination, written, or it could be in a form of interview. Mostly for the examinations and interviews to earn a job, these are subjective measurements, because including your looks, including the way you are answering, including the way you are dressing, the manner that you have, these are subjective, no? They are measured subjectively. So an objective measurement is one that cannot be interpreted differently because of its numerical values. So when I am giving an examination, when we say objective, whatever is your score, that is your objective, no? Objective measure. While the subjective measure is one that can possibly be interpreted differently because different people have different likes and dislikes. You could be a choice of one particular manager, but you are neglected by the other. So that is subjective. Now, an examination, on the other hand, is a long test which may or may be composed of one or more test formats. Example for those: midterm or licensure examination, or comprehensive examinations for those who are getting master's degrees and doctoral degrees. Okay, so just like that, an examination. Okay, a test is an instrument or systematic procedure for measuring a sample of behavior by posing a set of questions in a uniform manner. A test item is any question included in a test or examination, like who was the president of the Philippines when World War II broke out? Or is Little Red Riding Hood a short story? So that is, these are examples of test items. Like for example, this one. What is the compass error caused by the magnetic North Pole not being at the same geographical location as the true North Pole? This is the stem, no? The stem of the test, and the responses are here. Then correct, if the correct answer is variation, these are the destructors. In a way, we will come to that when we will deal with the different types of examinations or different types of tests. No? So this is an example of a multiple choice test. A test in the educational setting is a question or a series of questions. It should be questions, a series of questions, which aims to determine how well a student learned from a subject or topic. No? So when we say a test, it would test how well you understood a certain topic. And when we say test, it is a little bit shorter compared to different other types of examinations. Now, a non-test, there is also a non-test, okay? It's a question or activity which determines the interest, attitudes, and other student characteristics whose answer or answers is or are not judged wrong or incorrect. No? Non-test. Example is personality inventory. What is your favorite sports? Remember our slam books when we were yet in high school? The questions that you found there were non-test. No? Who is your favorite actor? Who is your favorite singer? Who is your ideal man? Just like that. These are non-test questions. So anecdotal record is a non-test because you are just describing what is happening. A checklist, an example of a checklist, diba? You are checking your prospectus or your checklist. You are checking whether you have taken the subjects that would qualify you to graduate. The daily assignments, these are non-tests. No? These are only assignments. The debates, demonstrations, those things that you were doing, no. Because in our school, we are allowing our interns to have demonstrations, even if they are not actually facing the actual students. They would assume that the teachers are their actual pupils. So to say, because of pandemic, we were not able to expose the practice teachers to the actual classroom setting. Their exposure is actual classroom setting, but their pupils are the critic teachers. The games, the journals, the oral and written reports, you cannot be signed with clearances when you were yet in your practice teaching if you cannot complete your written reports. Then panel discussion, your portfolios. No? So these things are non-tests. So we can now classify between the test and the non-test. Quiz, on the other hand, is a short test, usually given at the beginning or end of a discussion period. No? A quiz. So it is a sort of mind opening, or if it is done at the end of the period, it is a sort of trying to evaluate if you really understand something about the topic being discussed. Then aptitude is the area or discipline where a student would most likely excel or do well. No, aptitude. So in a way, we can discuss more about aptitude. Intelligence versus aptitude. So be careful with that. Intelligence is a mark of one's general ability and evolves rapidly with the learning they're exposed to. While aptitude is a knack for a specific ability, like numbers or shapes or art. So the different intelligences. No? So meaning aptitude, no, looks at a particular thing that you are good at. No? So, and can be basically identified early. So intelligence versus aptitude. So when we say aptitude, the attitude on the other side, and you have the skills, this is your sweet spot. No? If these three are present in a person, he has the aptitude, he also has the attitude and the skills, then he possesses a very sweet spot. Now, evaluation is the process of systematic collection and analysis of both qualitative and quantitative data for the purpose of making some decision and judgment. So qualitative and quantitative. The purpose for that is for decision and judgment. Usually, this is done in determining the honor roll in the class or evaluating your checklist of your grades, whether you would qualify to be a magna cum laude or summa cum laude. No? Then evaluation is the process of gathering and interpreting evidence. So there should be evidences. So in evaluating your grades, the evidences are the grade sheets of the teachers. In evaluating honor rolls in the elementary and high school, the basis or the evidence would be your card, no? The progress report. So regarding the problems and progress of individuals in achieving desirable educational goals, okay? Determining whether you belong to outstanding, excellent, or below average. Okay, then evaluation implies that measurement and assessment of educational characteristics had been done and that it is now desired to pass on value judgment on the educational outcome. No? So just like the previous slide. And from where on, no? After determining whether you belong to excellent, awesome, or sad to say poor, that is your feedback. From that feedback being used from the input of the evaluation that you are doing, you can have comments and you can review, and at the same time you can revise. So if ever after giving an examination you found out, teacher, that most of the students failed in your examination, try to ask yourself, have I done really my part in discussing or elucidating the terms and terminologies, the topics to my students? Then it is important that you should have a rationalization. Why the students failed? Why they do not understand? Is it in your end, or is it theirs? It is it their end? No, sorry. Because there are times when we are just like playing volleyball, we would pass the blames, but we must remember always teachers, especially the elementary teachers, because that is the formative years of the pupils. If your pupil cannot read, that is a teacher factor. Remember that. That is a teacher factor. Unless the pupil is not normal, no, not teachable. But as long as the pupil is normal, if in your particular class somebody could not read, that is your factor. Because there are students who are really slow learners. Do not leave them. No, do not leave them. That is part of the evaluation process. As much as possible, no, as much as possible, 100% of the class should understand 75% of your lesson. Dili sakto ng at least 75% of the students understand my discussion. No. 100% of the students should understand 75% of the topic that you are discussing. We are student-centered. We are pupil-centered. No? So it's up to them to cope up with the remaining 25. What is important is 100% all of them understood even 75% of your discussion. So that's it. Now, types of evaluation. We have the placement, the formative, diagnostic, and summative. So ideally, there are still other types of evaluation, but for education, these are ideally the different types. Placement evaluation accounts for students' entry behavior or performance. We have an elucidating, more discussion about placement in the next slides. Then formative evaluation provides the students with feedback regarding his success or failure in attaining instructional objectives. Diagnostic evaluation is used to detect students' learning difficulties. So that is why the root word is diagnose, which are not revealed by formative test or checked by remedial instruction and other instructional adjustment. Then summative evaluation is concerned with what students have earned after a given period. So we have now individual discussion. Placement is the final role of assessment, and curricular decisions concerns placement. So assessment plays a vital role in determining the appropriate placement of a student, both in terms of achievements and aptitude. So when we say placement, usually this particular type of examination or evaluation would place a student in that particular area. Now, during the time of Rizal, after their examinations or after a series of examinations, if that particular student would be at the top of the class, he would be transferred to the front and he would belong to a certain group in the class. No? So if you are a loser, if you are a slow learner and you are a low performing student, you would be at the behind, you would be put behind the class. No? So that's placement. Much more, look at this. Placement or the training and placement will determine your place. Say for example, if you are taking interviews and examinations to earn a job, after that placement evaluation, that would determine whether you are accepted or not, whether you are hired or not. Huh? So that's placement. Now, placement evaluation designed to place the right person in the right place. So setting the honor roles, that is placement. Determine the level of child in the instructional sequence. Then teacher planned scheme of instruction for classroom to bring a change in pupils' behavior in an orderly manner. And then educators prepare place students for planned instruction for their better prospects. Remember when you were yet in grade 1 or even in kindergarten, Remember, our names were placed on the bulletin somewhere at the corner of our room regarding our reading capacity. Matunguban nga, kariton ra gisakyan, others to ana sa boat, others airplane. So fast readers, the names of those who are fast readers, mabitanawing, ay naka-airplane na jud ko, ay naka-boat na ko, napoy maingon nga di apa jud ko sa kariton. So these are motivations of the teachers, but then be careful, because this is also a way of bullying. Okay, there is a chance that those katong mga bata nga og yun din taon maabot sa boat naara sa kariton kalingaw, no? So hinay ang progress. That is a challenge for you teachers. See to it that nobody in the classroom would be bullied because of the placement that you are making. So daghan kaayo, no, there was once in our elementary to challenge the pupils unsa gibuhat sa mga teachers after the first grading period, gipost nila outside the door of their classrooms, gipost nila ang ranking sa ilahang mga pupils from the top down to the lowest. Then wala ko kay baw niadto. Then one of the parents came to me, yun nga, ma'am, ang anak kay dili noon pud siya na sa bottom pero fifth to the last na. Then unsa man ron nga the teachers are posting the list of the students according to the rank in the first grading period. Ding adto ko sa elementary building kay another building man ang elementary. Then I saw the listing. Then wala ko mga saba. I called the attention of the principal. The principal is now in the public school, no? Laki siyang ginaduy nga no mani nga arong ma-challenge ng uban ma'am kay kuan sa kanang wa may problema sa purpose nimo. The problem is ang effect ni ana. Parents adi man po din og daghan isa ra man putong idola ang ma'am. That is one way of bullying kay an avenue man na sa mga classmates nga lowest last sa ana. So inko nga mamufalo na lang ta sa kinaraan nga only those who are honor pupils, the names of those honor pupils would be posted. So gipakuha na ang mga gipang post from grades 1 to 6. Wala pa man may kindergarten at the time. So pag kaanin ko nga revise, then pagama mo mas nindot unsya kanang honor rolls kay at least sa honor rolls wala man gyud mo bully adto nila, while kung makita ang tuwa sa bottom, the tendency is ikaw pud parent, no, what will you feel if your child, no, the name of your child is at the bottom? Sakit baya pod, no? So that's it, placement evaluation. So daghan ta kayo bantayan teachers. Then informative evaluation, the second one. This is a kind of evaluation that is done during the implementation of a program or curriculum. So during the implementation, it provides feedback for the improvement of instruction, and it is also consist of 5 to 10 items, no, formative. It is administered at the end of the day's instruction. So pwede ang daily quiz could be a formative evaluation. So the result of this kind of test is not recorded or graded because it only provides feedback to the quality of teachers' instruction. But then, in my case, i-record din ako because that is one way of determining whether the students are really listening to me. That is part of the daily quizzes. Now, informative assessment, kanay kay mas klaro gyud ni nga discussion, no? It should be done before the lesson, during the lesson, and after the lesson, no? So when it is done before the lesson, the learner understands the lesson's purpose and identifies what they know about the topic. The teacher, on the other hand, determines what the learner knows and can do. So para makaproceed siya. Then during the lesson, learner monitors one's progress. And the teacher is learning that tracks the learning progress in comparison to formative assessment results before the lesson. So nasa'y comparative. And after the lesson, the learner recognizes whether they have met the learning objectives. And the teacher, on the other hand, assesses whether learning objectives have been met. No? Because that is primarily part of our lesson plan. Objectives, and at the end, we will try to find out, we would assess whether our objectives have been met. So formative type of assessment is very helpful in the learning progress of the students. Diagnostic evaluation, the third type, is concerned with identifying the learning difficulties or weakness of pupils during instruction. No? So the strengths and weaknesses are identified through diagnostic. So unsay gamit ni ana, it tries to locate the specific areas of weaknesses of the pupil. Then unsay strength ni ana, that would be your basis, teacher. Nga aning the pita, because the pupils are weak at this point, okay, strengthen that point. I-review na siya nga topic, give emphasis to that topic. Kung gikinahanglan nga mag-removal ka on that topic, do it. No? Provide additional kanang gitawag nato og kanang term ana, additional skeleton para nga the learning of the students would be strengthened. No? Then provide remedial instruction to the pupils. Mamagid na kasagaran. That is why in the elementary level, na ibang parents mareklamo, ma'am, ang anak kay pirmi mapabilin ko. Di ka malipay ana nga imong anak ipabilin kay na ay tutorial nga gihimo, nga na ay additional nga task kay para nga maka-cope up siya. So gikinahanglan gyud nga mapasabot pud ang parents ni anak. Then diagnostic assessment there assist the teachers to gain understanding of current situation. Naunsa na ni knowledge about how to improve and required resources. Again, as what I have said, it would give us an avenue or idea how to strengthen. No? Then that would be the basis of our action. And then we could have an improved learning outcomes, or we can revise our ways of approaching our teaching process. Summative-evaluation, the last, sometimes referred to as external, a method of judging the worth of a program at the end of the program, summation. The focus is on the outcome or the final product. An example outside the classroom setting. Summative evaluation is just like you are given sheets of papers. After attending a seminar, you are going to evaluate whether the speaker is good. If there are 3 speakers, isuwat nila mga names, na ay mga columns, then you have to check kung anindot ba siya nga speaker, wa ba mga tug ang mga listeners. Or in restaurants, usually kanang mga 3-star, 5-star hotels, kung ma-check out ka, pangayuan yun ka sa evaluation sheet, you are going to evaluate, i-rate nimo ang services given to you by the personnel. Important, that is the way of improving. This is just like us, But on the summative assessment in terms of education, it determines the extent to which the learning objectives are met, So usually ang summative to ana sa end, magani summation. Usually kanang maingon ka og kanang unit test, chapter test. Sa ginagmay, kung ginagko na unit test, because unit composed of several chapters. Or kanang mga grading exams na to, prelims, midterms, first grading, second grading, these are summative. So summative assessment is an overview with examples. The assessment of learning over longer periods. Imen ka og prelims, it is within a month. Midterms, another month, semifinals and finals. Then for the elementary and high school, kanang first grading, because it starts with karon kay September naman ang atong klase September, October, November. So man first grading. December, January, February, man second grading. Then March, April, May, mo na third grading sa taman April or di ay. tag 3 months. 3 months. Adi, uy, kay, like, depende na kay, maglisod ko kay, in our new normal, we started August or September. Arita sa unaha, kinaraan, June, July, August, maugid na ang first grading. Sa September, October, November, second grading na. May numdum ka na, kay ting sign of clearance, ihatag pa ng card na. Pagka December, January, February, third grading, di na ipakita ang card. Others, dili na iuli ang card ni Ana. There are, depende na. But in the private schools, depende man na, no? Kung ipakita pa. Mas nindot pag ipakita. Kaya at least naapay March nga mo-final. Naapay room for improvement kung hagbangon ang imuhang anak. So, summative. So, we have so much to talk about assessment, no? Then let us try to compare between the formative and summative aron nga mas masabot. Formative during evaluation, during learning, while you are teaching, you are giving formative exams. Summative on the other hand, after na sa learning, no? Then monitoring learning under formative, ranks and grade assignments sa summative. Then for formative improves learning, summative evaluates achievement. So in the end, nagyod ang summative. Then provides ongoing feedback for improving instructions. For formative, naapay chance ba na there are changes, there are improvements, pero sa summative, comparison through standardized testing. No? Then covers small content ang formative, but summative covers the entire course. See? No? Pang-finals ang summative. Now, other purposes of evaluation: to maintain standard, to select students, to motivate learning, to guide learning, to furnish instruction, and to appraise educational instrumentalities. So these are the other purposes of evaluation. So meaning it is generating knowledge so that evaluation could be used. It could be our accountability as teachers. How well are we doing our task to fulfill the purposes of evaluation in education? Now, the chief purpose of evaluation. So let us analyze the chief purpose. We are evaluating a student or students so that they can open up their mind and they would understand where they are as of this moment, and it could open up their mind that they need to go forward and go further. They need to study more so that by so doing, they could go up, moving up in the situation, and they could study more in such a way that they could attain to the top of what they are expecting. So in other words, the chief purpose of evaluation is the improvement of the individual learner. Although we are looking at the pool of students in our classrooms, each one of these students have their individuality that should be improved. So if it is the purpose of evaluation to improve the individual learner, it is the responsibility of individual learner as well to do his part. No? Because you cannot force, yes, you can force a horse to go to the river, but you can never force the horse to drink the water on that river. So I used to tell my students these words, no? Bisan pag unsaon namo mga teachers, bisag unsa pa namog pagpalami-lami, but you are not doing your end. Pero karon bisag unsa pa ni Ma'am Leah paningkamot para sa review, if you are not interested in the review, you are just attending this para maka-certificate mo aron makakuha og credentials, but then in the end, ayuha gani na ninyo evaluate because we know daghan man gyud mo bagot-bot nganong ipugos ana, no? nganong ipamugos, but then you will find out later nga layo pas tinuod ang tanan nga efforts nga inyong gihimo. Layo pa gyud na. No? You should have started when you were yet in first year college to prepare yourself to pass the board examination. Kung pwede unta, not only to pass, but to be at the top. This is a challenge to you. Hagna and Talibon, they were able to produce 2 top-notchers. No? Kaduha na ang Talibon, kaduha pud ang Hagna. So, why couldn't it be you to be the next top-notcher in our next board examination? So that is a challenge to us all. Now, the functions of evaluation, one is prediction. So we say we can predict. After getting the evaluation papers of our students, so as an experience, after taking down jotting down the scores that they get, I could predict this particular student is good. Then if I would give higher order thinking skills exams, the HATS, the way you are presenting your idea, the way you are writing your idea, of course, mo count ang agi, but then the concept, ako no, concept yun ang importante nako. I could predict asa paingon ning bata. Moingon ko if this particular student would not change his attitude, his processes in learning, this will be going far. That is one of the functions of evaluation. We could predict. Then another is we could diagnose. No? We could diagnose this particular thing is lacking on this child. So it is very important that he should know this. And then these are avenues for further research. That is why it is not good for a teacher to just depend on the books, depend on the previous topics that they were discussing. It is very important for teachers to upgrade themselves. Otherwise, there are new trends in education that they could not relate with. Now, the areas of educational evaluation, achievement, achievement. That is one and the foremost thing that we are considering in educational evaluation. Makagraduate ba or not? Then aptitude. No? What are the ideas which are present on the mind of the students? Are they creative? Do they have the strategies? Are they inspired? That's aptitude. And then the interest of the students, as well as their personality, because their personality differ from each other. No? And then a well-defined system of evaluation enable one to clarify goals. No? In the turning points of one's life, especially in the student's life, should I pursue? What course should I get? No? What course should I enroll? Or should I proceed? It will be clarified if you have a well-defined system of evaluation. Then check upon each phase of development. That is, you need to follow up. No? And then the third, diagnose learning difficulties. What are the difficulties and the strengths of the learners? Why is it that these particular things are difficult for them? And the last is planning or plan carefully for remediation. Teachers as we are, we should always put remedial classes as part of our evaluation process or the result of evaluation, because it is in our end, teachers. If the students would not understand the things that we are discussing after the evaluation, you have to set remedial classes. Okay? So we are now in the principles of educational evaluation. Evaluation must be based on previously accepted educational objectives. So di ka magbuot-buot, teacher, no? It's not good nga magtaka-taka ra kag imuha. Ganahan ka ani, ari ko chapter 2 ay mo adto sa ako chapter 8 be. Balik na pug kag chapter 5. You cannot do that. Evaluation must be based on previously accepted educational objectives. Mo gani na nga in the public schools, even in the private, naagyud taan ng PELC, no? Na ay mga learning steps, no? This one will be the first, followed by the next. And then, qualities of educational objectives. It should be feasible. It should be observable, relevant, measurable, unequivocal, logical, and acquirable. Then another principle of educational evaluation, evaluation should be continuous, comprehensive, and cumulative process. Continuous. No? Magani na nga, mostly in the public schools, kung naay mga bata nga how many days na nga wala mo to nga, it is very important for the teachers to have a home visit. No? Part of their guidance and counseling, ano wala may eskwela ning bata. No? So it should be continuous, and assessment at the same time should be continuous. If you are good on the phase 1, move to the next, up to the last level, wherein you can get the mastery. When we have continuous improvement, we are looking at the quality of the performance, quality of the process, the strategy, and commitment. So it is following a cycle, no? So starting from the commitment, compelling awareness, then vision, the strategy, the deliverables, the strategies, then the process analysis and mapping, then finally the performance, no? Performance measures and management purposes. Then evaluation should recognize that the total individual personality is involved in learning, no? Kanang present, physically present, but mentally absent. So see to it, teacher, that you are engaged with your students or pupils, and you could recognize that the pupil is really listening to you. And try to find out the reasons why there are some students who are not interested. Kasi boring ra pagkakaayo because you are only reading the book. No, isa na. Maboard man mga students na much more labi na jud og word for word gipakopya ra ang mga bata sa board, so they are making another book out of your original book. So it should be a total individual personality that should be involved in the learning process, no? You should know the personality, the ability, and the learning. So that is personal development. Another is evaluation should be democratic and cooperative. No? So democratic meaning you should give freedom to the students so that they could cooperate. No? They should be equally given the chance. No? And then they could cooperate. Then another principle of educational evaluation should be positive and action directed. There should be a challenge. By so doing, children would be motivated to have their action towards their goal. Then evaluation should give opportunity to the pupil to become increasingly independent in self-appraisal and self-direction. So when we say self-direction, this refers to the capabilities of people to direct their own lives based on their understanding of themselves, others, and the world, and their skill in managing their own learning, motivation, and behavior. So if you are a self-directed person, you can also enhance and you can also motivate your students to be self-directed. That is, they should be responsible enough for their own progress. So if you are here, no, this is your place right now. You must master the art of self-direction. You must know next year, where would I be? No? 2 years from now, where should I be? 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I should be the principal. And by mastering the art of self-direction, you know your way. You know what is the right and what is the wrong way, and you can choose which one you should follow. Then evaluation should include all significant evidence from every possible source, no? Evidence, there should be evidence. That is why in examinations, you have to give back the test papers to the students. These are evidence, no? that they are taking the examinations. I will set an example to you. There was once a student who cried. Pighatagan sa 2-5 sa teacher na certain subject. Tining ato sa opisina, hilak duro ang bata. But then we know nga makamaog ito nga bata. She was an accountancy student. Hilak jud sa mamahibaw jud ko ma'am, asa ko dapita. And why is it that I am given 2.5? We confronted the teacher. Then ingon teacher, sige atong susihon sa class record. The class record was the evidence. We looked at the class record and nga wala lagi siya exam aning mga dapita. Then the official exams were passed. Naman yun na prelim, midterm, semifinal, final. Only prelim, midterm, semifinal, final. Then usually ang final yun gikip na sa opisina. Gikugihan jud na magsusi including the teacher. Kaya ang final exam man may wa. And we found out nga naa ang test paper sa bata. So, giusab jud sa teacher ang grado sa bata. No? Ingon ana ba nga sitwasyon, you should have the evidence, the evidence-based learning. It was an experience. I had been teaching in another school, no, high school. Then katong bata ang makamaog yun sa math. I was the algebra teacher nila. Then it so happened nga wala ma-honor ang bata ba, then naghinagbo mingo day wala gi ka ma-honor. Natinga ko nga hinghilak ang bata. Only to find out nga ang advisor niyan hanaw ni ma'am. Nangutana kuno ka nganong wa ma-honor si maning bata. Ko, oo. Ikaw man goy nakaangin ma'am nganong wa ma-honor. Ko nga, hala ngano man. Sabi tanawa ng imong class record kuno ma'am. Pag tanaw na sang class record, 88 ang grado sa math sa bata. Ma'am, 88 is ang grado na ho. So one of the highest, kaya di man siya kumuhatag diretsog 90, first grading. Gikuha sa teacher ang ahong grade sheet nga gihatag niya. And you know what? 78 ang grado nga gibutang na ho sa grade sheet. So just try to imagine how I felt. Then nakasabot ko sa bata, mao dayang ninghilak ang bata. Kay ako'y nakaangin nga sa ma-honor. So I went to the principal of that particular school. Ni audience ko dito, ang gipakita ang class record, ug mong gipakita ang ahong kanang grading sheet. Niangkon jud ko nga nasayop ko. Was an error, 78 na butang. So, pag human adto the following day under sa klase na namo, I really asked apology in front of the class. Arang hilaka sa bata kay human naman na post nga sa ma-honor. So, ni-request ko nga pwede bag mausob ang honor roll para niza nga kuan. So, nahimo ba yapon? It was the administration. Nihangyo gyud sa admin. So, meaning, no? Meaning, we are not perfect. Pero dili lang unta punta nga og ingnon ta nga nasayop ta, na may ban nga masuko. Which is not good. Kay we cannot claim that we are perfect. There are so many avenues nga masayop gyud ta. So, just like that, that is an example. Patarong-tarong bantog rag estudyante kay mulikay na ho arang luoya. So had it not nga na find out, mo na nga dili dautan kung mautana. So kung kamo, kung diskumpiyado mo sa inyong grado, awa naman may chance no, you are already graduating. Di pud mo maka-complain sa ko unhappy arasig. Ano ako kapasar na cancer ko tanan. You cannot do that, no? So prove with evidence, always with evidence, no? Mao na ang evaluation process. Mo na nga di gyud pangwad-on ang mga test papers. That those are evidences. Ikaw teachers ang imo pong mga exams. Then evaluation should take into consideration the limitations of the particular educational situations. No? There are limitations. Kinahanglan i-consider na nimo teachers. Like for instance, as of this moment, unsay mga limitations nato karon? Internet, no? That is why I am resolving to recording my lessons because my internet as well is not stable. There was a time when I had my discussion, then ako mismo ang mawa kay hinay ang ako ang signal. So there are limitations. So the pointers in formative evaluation, there should be an achievement continuum at every level of instruction. Criteria and standards be well defined at the beginning of the learning process. Criterion reference tests should be administered. Students should always be informed of their progress. Muna hinungdan nga, we are giving the report cards. No? And that is the reason why in college, muna hinungdan nga, if you want to know your grades, pangayuan mo sa inyong passbook, you have to write your subjects taken aron nga mabutang didto ang inyong mga grades. Then enrichment or remedial opportunities should be made available. So this is the end of part 1. I would upload another topic later. So for a while, you may take your break. Thank you very much.